All right, here we are to talk about Blood of the Fold, which is Sword of Truth number 3, written by Terry Goodkind. Definitely not good
Profoundly
nor
amazing.
kind. And here today, it is I, the book Centrist, aka Centrist of the Fold. And we got Andrew, aka Zed Mindgasms.
Yep.
I think that's his favorite character in the book.
Yep.
Blood of the Fold. Not the best of books.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it's definitely both of our least favorite in the series so far.
Yeah, there's so much wrong with this book. Um, well, if you want to do the overview, it's pretty much the wannabe Aes Sedai. We have this new character who's like a dream walker, and I guess he controls people through their dreams. The story for this one is very convoluted, at least the plot, and I thought the ending was extremely weak.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting and head scratching moments in this book. Um, but just to set it off, this is like a direct sequel to the second book. Um, Kaelin is still
Yeah.
thought to be dead, and um, I guess the new leader of Dahara is Richard, and he finds out that he has a bunch of loyal followers, many
Right.
who are bound to him by some type of magic that is, I guess, akin to mind slavery.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay. Um, and apparently he still has people do that ritual. Um, and the Daharan ritual, it's like they go and they do like some chants and they kneel to him and they like worship him, and I don't know. It doesn't really, to me, paint Richard as that good of a character. And we had a pretty interesting character development in the last book for Kaylin, and she gets totally shelved in this book, almost
Yeah.
relegated to a damsel in distress type of position.
Yeah. And her role in the second book was one of the most interesting parts.
So basically, it's Richard is dealing with political intrigue, but it's like crappy political intrigue that's not all that interesting. Uh, and I guess what he's trying to do is unite some of the nations of the Midlands. Man, the dialogue in this book is just so bad. Um,
Yeah. It's really cheap.
I think one of the stupid things about this book is a lot of characters call each other by name constantly. Like nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't say, yes, Andrew. Okay, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Would
Yeah.
you? Yeah, it's like
I
every
find
other
it.
sentence.
I find it weird when people do that in podcasts sometimes. Like on Joe Rogan's podcast, we'll have a guest and will say, "Well, Joe, like, why are you talking like that? Just talk to him." I don't use people's names when I talk to them either, unless I just met a really hot girl and I want to say her name a lot so she remembers me.
Yeah, so that's all the dialogue. Super cheesy dialogue, especially when whenever Kaylin and Richard are together.
Yes.
So let's talk about the main bad guy. I think his name is Tobias. He's kind of some type of general in the blood of a fold, and he has this sister who is who has the gift. Basically, that just means she does magic,
Right.
and he's like the most hypocritical person in the world because he's extremely anti-magic, but he'll use his sister to fulfill ends, and it just makes no sense, like the character itself. And then there's nipple magic. Do you remember that? You don't remember the nipple magic where like the sister would cut off a nipple and you don't remember this, dude? It happens a couple different times. But okay, so there's this magic spell that Tobias' sister does where she cuts off the nipple, like the left nipple of a woman, and then she becomes mind controlled or something like that.
Oh, okay. I remembered the cutting off of the nipples, but I didn't remember the like mind control nipple magic. That's funny.
As one of the first ones that Richard encounters is, I think one of the Mord Sith has her nipple cut off.
Okay.
And there's a point where he makes all the Mord Sith get topless, and like one of them is really upset about it. And it ends up that she's missing a nipple, so she's being magically manipulated. And then there's this long, stupid
Oh, okay.
scene.
Here's an excuse. Here's an excuse for you to all take your tops off. I need to see if you're a secret spy because you're missing a nipple.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. There's just this long ass dialogue where I don't know how to say it. It's just repetitive and stupid. Where he's talking to the Lord Sith, and he's like, "Oh, you're bound to me. Try to kill me." Blah blah blah. And she's like, "Oh, I can't." And they kind of go back and forth. It's like, man, this is so dumb. Um, but anyway, there's a lot of this book has a lot of mind control in it, like a ridiculous amount. There's
Right.
also a point where he gets mind controlled by these Riswith creatures. He gets
Those
seduced
again?
by, huh?
What are those creatures again?
They're like these like invisible creatures that have like these three-pronged knife things that
Okay.
used to be like wizards that were corrupted or some shit like that. Um, it's so stupid. But anyway, I think the main plot is the big bad guy. He wants to take over the palace of the prophets because in that place you age extremely slowly. So if he took over that
Right.
place, he would be able to rule for thousands and thousands of years. So there's like this plot where I think they have to destroy the magic of that place. Um, Man, it's just this book is so bad. I can't believe
Yeah,
it.
it is.
Um, Even from what because I was looking at other interviews, and people were also complaining about this book in particular as being one of the worst in the series.
Not even
Uh,
the worst.
Um, well, many said that this was the worst.
Okay.
So there are books apparently that are better than this one that come later in the series. And I can understand why people would bail on this book, at least bail on the series. Supposedly, the best book is like either 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So that's from what I've been researching. Um,
Okay. Yeah, the first time I read these books, I bailed after the third one. This book was the reason I bailed the first time.
yeah, it's just there's so much bad, like uninteresting, like the main bad guy, the one Tobias. He's just kind of like basically a crazy white cloak who
Yeah, basically.
he's like extremely zealous. I think he thinks he's being talked to by the creator, but he's just being manipulated by that Dreamwalker guy. And then it comes to a
Right.
point where he thinks that the creator is a Baneling. Like he thinks
What's the page name again?
a Baneling is basically somebody who serves um, this world's version of the Dark One. I forgot what they call him. I don't remember what they call like the
Okay.
Dark One in this series. And the funny thing
Right.
is like he's actually kind of true because the guy who's manipulating him is posing as the creator, and then he kind of logically comes to the conclusion that
Right.
the creator is evil because he doesn't know that he's being manipulated. I know that during one of the later fights, Tobias discovers that he has magical powers and he lashes out with them. I believe his sister kills him, and then someone kills his sister, and then somebody kills the guy who killed his sister. It's like a weird, like chain reaction of deaths that happen at the end. I was like disappointed. Like, why did they even do that? I know there's a huge battle that occurs at the end of the book. Um, one before the man, there's just so much weird and crappy stuff in this particular book.
Yeah. It's
So
so
there's a
random
risk.
too. So much of it.
Yeah, it's like
Oh, here, there's some. Let's throw some magic in here. That's probably a good place for some magic. I've got some plot holes.
yeah, there's like a risk with Queen that he fights with, and he has to destroy all the eggs. Like, man, this is like
Right.
super stupid. Um, and then
No,
like
but
the
like
last,
one
go
this
ahead.
I know this is off topic, but it reminds me of this one part. I started reading one of David Eddings' books called The Dreamer, which is the Dreamers, which is the first in his Elder God series,
Uh
and I think it's better than this book. But there's a really weird part where the one of the main characters is a child who learns to talk to pink dolphins, and her best friend is a pink dolphin. I was thinking, why are there pink dolphins? I don't get.
well, if you're gonna start with David Eddings, I would recommend doing the Belgariad first.
Yeah, I do have the Belgariad books too, but this Elder God series looked a little more interesting.
Yeah, I haven't. I'll probably eventually get to that. I liked the Belgariad. I thought it was interesting. It's very
Okay.
traditional fantasy. But the things I do like about the Belgariad, I think specifically the audiobook is quite good. The narrator's pretty damn awesome. And it's like the dialogue between some of these characters are great. Because I think the guy who wrote the Belgariad was an English teacher. So he studied,
Okay.
like, that's why I like the dialogue in this book. It seems like it's like super fantasy, but each character has like their own flavor on how they talk, and it's very recognizable. But you said this reminded you of the elder gods.
Just
This
that,
book.
just like all the seemingly totally random shit like that. There's a little bit of that in the Elder Gods too, but nowhere near to the extent that there is in this book.
Yeah, it's just like I felt like this book was just really poorly planned, and they just try to throw a bunch of just random shit um, everywhere. I couldn't believe how ridiculous this book was. Like I think
Yeah,
Zed gets leashed like he's a freaking demone or something.
yeah, basically.
Like he gets controlled by the the Armelin seat. Like I'm using all these like Wheel of Time terms, but actually a lot of people have said that many of the ideas in these books are like complete rip-offs of Wheel of Time.
I'd say Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, yeah, Samuel, but we haven't seen Samuel since book two. Who's like the Gollum
Yeah,
character. Uh, so this book
yeah,
is
kind of.
horrid. So I know Zed,
Yeah,
he gets there's like a bunch of stuff I don't even freaking understand about this book. Like in the last book, there was a quote unquote death spell cast, which made everybody think that Kalen was killed at an execution. And for some reason that they don't really explain
oh
very
right.
well, some people were able to figure out that Kalen was still alive.
Yeah, and that lasted for a lot of the book, didn't it?
Right, because
Where they
everyone
thought that he
thought
was
that
dead.
Kaylin was like the queen of some other country, but they didn't know that she was the mother confessor. It's just like super confusing.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just the book is not very good. I know. Um, I guess one of the yeah, it's like super anticlimactic. Like yeah, it's bad. It's hard to talk about this book because it's just like the plot is nonsensical. The the book right before this was like actually pretty goddamn decent, and then we get to this.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
what
This
the
is worse
fuck?
than the first one. Even the first one was pretty decent in comparison to this one.
Yeah, this third book is just bad. I don't know what to say. Like
Yeah,
I don't know why it's bad. It just is. There's rape in this one, I believe. Um, I think most
yeah,
of his books have rape in
yeah. Well, I think
it.
like basically based on what we and mostly you have said so far, there isn't, especially in comparison to the previous book, there isn't any character development. The plot is convoluted. It seems like the magic is just
Deus Ex
it's
Machina magic.
yeah, yeah, or MacGuffins, or anything like that. It's like, oh shit, I painted myself into a corner with plot holes here. Oh, better throw some magic there. Oh,
Yeah,
bother.
because yeah, I know the whole Palace of the Prophets stuff. Like, there's like different side plots. I know with that plot, the previous Armelin or whatever you want to call her fakes her own death, and she
Were they
leaves like
confessors?
no, I don't know what the fuck they're called. The people that are in the Palace of the Prophets, like the
Oh,
wannabe Aes Sedai.
okay. So wait,
Um,
so you're not the ice. You're not using the Aes Sedai as an analogy to the confessors. They're the
oh
something
no,
else.
not the confessors. I'm using them because the people in the Palace of the Prophets, those aren't confessors. Those are just people who use magic and they train men or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying before we started this, having I'm having trouble remembering most of what happens in this book, much more so than I usually do. Like often our chats get delayed a little bit, and then maybe sometimes we don't talk about a book until a couple weeks after I've read it, or maybe even sometimes a month after I've read it, and usually do a decent job of remembering most of the details. But a lot of this was just forgettable and confusing.
Yeah, it was just bad. I know there's many instances when, and this was like extremely annoying, and I thought it was very stupid. But there is a point in the book where, like, there's this woman that keeps like flirting with Richard and making like sexual advances.
Oh yeah,
So
that was really easy.
yeah, it was obvious that it was like magical. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, like Goodkind's writing style is very pedantic. It's like a beating the dead horse type of style of writing where he keeps going in and saying like the same things over and over and over again
Yeah,
where
so
he could.
formulaic and repetitive too.
Yeah, and I thought Dracula was repetitive. This is like worse.
Yeah.
I just finished Dracula. Um, I think the bad thing about Dracula is just, I'll talk about that later, but well, anyway, there's just a lot of little stupid plots like that. Just the woman trying to seduce him. I think eventually she like gets him in the bed and then she tries to kill him.
Right.
And that's where he discovers like the missing nipple magic. He sees that she doesn't have one of her nipples are gone.
Oh, you've been a spy. I should have looked at your nipples earlier.
Yeah. So that's when he goes and makes all this Mord Sith um, display all their nipples. Do you remember? And I thought this was pretty. Like it made me look at the character of Richard. Like I was like, damn, this guy's a homophobe or something. Like one of his Mord Sith is a lesbian, and she comes out to him, and he's like, I don't approve of that. That she was a lesbian. I was like, Jesus Christ, are you serious
I
about this
didn't.
bullshit?
I didn't remember that. No.
You don't remember that part? I was
No.
like, man, I
That's funny.
know that Richard is basically an analog. Here's what I think. I think Terry Goodkind wrote himself into this story as Richard.
Well, it would make sense because he's like Richard is kind of a like really traditional, seemingly homophobic, anarcho-capitalist, something like that.
What? Yeah,
He
they.
really hates communism in Russia and socialism and all that stuff.
So I was like, damn, man. Like, I was kind of astounded about that. Yeah, well, when was this book written? I'm assuming the late 90s.
Probably. I'm gonna double check that here. Blood of
Because I think even at that time, this view wasn't really popular.
1996.
Yeah, so if you're like saying it's not okay to be a lesbian in 1996, I think you might have a couple things wrong with you.
Yeah, it was like there was more of that even back then though. Like I've been watching old Seinfeld episodes. There are actually a surprising amount of homophobic jokes in that show. I didn't even remember from before.
From Seinfeld?
Yeah,
Well, I think Seinfeld, when was their last episode?
that must have been sometime in the 2000s. But I think most of it was in the 80s, or not the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah, I think so. But anyway,
And
yeah, I don't know if that view evolves, but apparently Richard doesn't approve of homosexuality, but he will tolerate it. He says something along those lines.
oh, okay,
But I was like,
hate the
man,
sin, not the sinner.
what's that?
Hate the sin, not the sinner. That bullshit line.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I don't
but
know. I was like,
Seinfeld,
damn it.
Seinfeld ended in 1998.
1998?
Yeah, very
Okay.
90s.
Yeah, it's definitely a 90s show.
It's funny watching that in today's context, seeing all the stuff they do that doesn't have to be done anymore. Like, oh, I gotta go home and check my messages on my answering machine. Oh, I saw this girl at a party, but I only know the building where she works. There's no possible way for me to meet her other than to go and stalk her in her lobby. Can't creep her
Yeah.
on social media or anything like that.
Yeah, so Gretch, he gets an upgrade in this book. Uh, that kind of, he's the reason why they won that last battle.
Hmm.
Apparently, Gretch is like a special type of, a gar?
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Yeah, he has the ability to like lead armies of gar or something like that. So during like the climax, he comes with his Gar army and they defeat like all the Riswith. So the thing about the Riswith is that nobody can see him, and I think Richard can detect them and Gratch can detect them, and nobody else really can see them at all. So when
Mm.
the Riswith attack the city, they just murder everybody
Right.
because nobody can see them. They're like super Murdral or something like that.
It's an
Super
invisible
Murdral
murderer.
that you can't see.
Right.
So Gratch comes back with his army of Gar, and apparently Gars were created to fight against Riswith, and they come back and they kill all the Riswith and they win the day.
Right.
But the book is bad. Like as far as like
Yeah.
fantasy books, have you read one worse than this?
Uh, I doubt it. Yeah, this is probably it's probably safe to say that this is the worst fantasy book I've ever read. I would say so.
Yeah, I can't even remember what I put for Goodreads, but if I gave it, I feel like I need to go back and lower it,
I'm
whatever I
pretty
gave it.
sure, if I remember correctly, I gave the first one 3 stars, the second one 4 stars, and this one 2 stars, if I remember correctly.
I think I gave the last book 3 stars.
I think you also gave the first book 2 stars, right?
I gave the first book 2 stars.
Right.
Um,
Maybe
it's
this one
just
deserves 1 star then, by yours, by those
by
standards.
my standards, it should be. The reason why I gave the first book 2 is because the dialogue is just stupid.
The dialogue is stupid in all 3 of them, though.
It is, but at least by book 2, I got used to it.
Right.
And I think in book 3, there are just some scenes that go on too long and could have been cut quite short.
Yeah.
It's almost like he just was writing to fill up pages and to make sure his book was a certain length.
Yeah. It needs to be a long, epic fantasy book. I can't end it so quickly.
Yeah, there are just some certain parts that are very, um, I don't know, anticlimactic. I know there's like a little fight where he takes this, I don't know what you call it, a magical transport living subway system, and he goes back and then he fights. I don't know. I think he fights one of those Sisters of the Dark or whatever the hell they call them.
Hmm.
In one of these subway systems. Ah, this is so dumb. I know there's a part in the castle where they like trigger some alarm system and they gotta like crawl on their bellies because whatever's above like this sheet of mist gets killed.
Right.
And he doesn't even know how to use his powers correctly. Oh man. How long did it take you to read this damn book?
Oh, I don't remember. I think it's fairly long, so I think it took me maybe 2 or 3 days because I
Oh
was
my
listening to
god.
the audiobook.
Oh, you listened to it. Where did you find the audiobook?
Yeah, I think it was on YouTube.
Okay, I think of next time. I'm not gonna spend a
I'm pretty sure it was
goddamn Audible
pretty.
credit on this shit.
Yeah, the audiobooks are even worse because the narrator is not good. I think it's Scott Brick or someone terrible like
Oh
that.
no, no, it wasn't. Well, if it is Scott Brick, I guess there's might be 2 versions. But I think the guy that reads The Sword of Truth is the same guy that reads some of the Asimov books.
Oh, okay,
So he sounds like a little wooden as well.
okay.
Oh man, just boring ass fucking book. That's all I could tell you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like the main plot from A to B is basically there's this guy that invades people's dreams and he uses everybody like chess pieces and they gotta destroy the thing that makes the Palace of the Prophets makes they have it's like some type of field that makes everybody within it not age and it has to be destroyed and I don't know it's just not that
Wait,
good.
why does he want to destroy it so Tobias can't use it? Is that why he wants to destroy it?
Well, it's not Tobias, it's like some other bad guy, Emperor some so and so.
Okay.
I don't remember his name, but it's like the other guy who invades people's dreams and he
Fails him on?
yeah, basically, and then he takes over some of those dark sisters and makes them do his bidding. I don't know. It's like
Oh man.
I think that out of all of the reviews that I saw, one person actually liked it, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, you actually like this book? I didn't finish the review because I was like, there's no way this person's like serious about this shit.
Uh, I'll just read the. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page. The plot summary itself is too long to read, but I'll read this one paragraph that's a plot introduction. Prior to the start of Blood of the Fold, Richard comes to terms with his true identity as a war wizard, a powerful wizard with both additive and subtractive magic. That is one aspect of the magic system that I like, that there's additive and subtractive magic.
Yeah, but he doesn't
The
do
New
shit with
World,
any of that during this book
yeah, that's true.
because he doesn't
That's
know how to
true.
use his magic in this book at all.
Yeah, Zed should fucking teach him. Like, he's supposed to be the wizard. But anyway, the New World and all the freedom of humankind is under threat from the Imperial Order. After the barrier between the old and new world was brought down, the Imperial Order has already sent delegations and armies into the new world. Richard's only option to stop the invasion is to claim his heritage and unite all three kingdoms and provinces under one rule and one command.
Yeah, he basically becomes like a dictator in his
Mhm.
terms. Like, his terms are like super complicated. It's all, oh, you join us and you become completely autonomous. You just have to aid in the defense of everybody, and you get taxed. And this is what I don't understand, because if he's like a Randian, why would he promote Richard taxing people?
Right, yeah. He's a Randian objectivist, not an anarcho-capitalist. I know libertarians and anarcho-capitalists and objectivists all like to distinguish themselves between each other. So yeah, that wouldn't make sense if you're for taxes, if you're Randian objectivist, because you want to
Yeah,
save
he's
all of
like pro
humanity.
taxes because it's like, oh yeah, let's join together and I'm going to tax you because we need to form a defense against this imperial order. And he basically wants everybody to surrender for to him. And he said like, oh yeah, if you don't surrender now, you're going to have heavier taxes and blah 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 blah. It's like, this is like boring bullshit.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know what to say, man. Like, this book is just fucking bad.
yeah, it is.
You gave it 2 stars?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, if I gave it 2, I think I need to actually give it 1 because it is not good.
No.
It's not exciting. I can't think of any battles being terribly exciting.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying too, like so much of this was just so forgettable.
Um, yeah, I know. What, we're only like 38 minutes in. It's just, I know we spoke
That's
more on the other book, but man, that other book was just so much more interesting than this one.
especially the last one, the second one.
Yeah, like I know we talked a lot about Kalen, and that was the thing too. Like, and even in the last book, I thought all of Richard's parts were boring, and boom, they like made this whole book boring by making it all about Richard.
Yeah, yeah.
They just,
The last one, there was a lot of stuff with Kaylin and Zed that was really interesting, right?
yeah, it just seems like all the characters who are actually good, they made them take a back seat,
Yeah.
and we had to deal with Richard and his like dumbass way of acting. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe you forgot about the part about he's saying he didn't approve of the lesbian lifestyle that his bodyguards were living.
I forgot most of the book, to be honest, man.
Oh man, because I remember you forgot in the second book that There's like a monster rape ritual.
Oh yeah,
And I brought it up, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that part.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think here it's just a bunch of women's nipples get chopped off.
yeah.
Um, I guess it's not as bad as some previous stuff from the books, but
Rape
well, yeah,
rituals.
there's implied rape too, because I know those Sisters of the Dark are like given over to some like sailors and they get raped.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like just a bunch of rape in Terry Goodkind's books. I don't know what's wrong with the guy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it is an easy way to make a bad guy, but it's not only bad guys that do it either.
I think that's the problem with his version of bad guys. They're just like so obviously bad. Like none of them have like this interesting philosophy, or I think like
Right.
the best villains have like a nugget that you can kind of grasp onto and you can at
Like
least understand why they are the way they are.
like
None of
Thanos,
the, yeah,
or
none of the
like
bad
or like
guys.
the Joker, or like Tyler Durden at the end of Fight Club. All of those, I think, they're so great. They're all such great villains because they have a nugget of wisdom.
Yeah, because it just reminds me of like a Shamael from The Wheel of Time,
Hmm.
and he has a logical conclusion about why he's doing the thing he's doing,
Hmm.
which is to shatter the repetitive nature of reality. But yeah, I have no idea what really the motives are of these bad guys in his books. I think basically, oh yeah, every bad guy has to be a rapist, and the worst ones are like child rapists and pedophiles. It's
Yep.
like, yeah, every bad guy has to do like the worst of the worst things
Hmm.
in in his books. There's like not any regular people who make some questionable moral choices because they believe that the means to their end is justified. No, the person has to be obviously bad. They have to be rapers and in some form or fashion. If it's not physical rape, it's mind rape.
I am
Sometimes.
evil. I want to see the world destroyed because I hate everything.
Yeah. So I don't know. I find Terry Goodkind's villains, at least in this book, quite juvenile.
Yeah.
Um, they're just not interesting. Like Tobias is not an interesting and like antagonist. The only interesting one was possibly the Dreamer guy, only because he's like somewhat diabolical. But Tobias just, I was like, okay, this guy's a leader in the butt of the fold. Why does he just seem like an idiot to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, Imperial Order, it's so crappy and dumb. I hope there's no Imperial Order in the next book. If there is, I don't know what to do.
Kind of like the Empire in the earliest Star Wars movies.
So
Stormtroopers
I know
and
we
Master
didn't like
Spec.
get too deep. I wasn't expecting to get too deep into this book, seem because there's very few memorable parts.
Yeah.
Like I think I've basically said most of them. You know, the nipple magic, uh, him calling out lesbians, um, got like Gratch becoming like the leader of a Gar army.
Right.
Um, the destruction of the palace of the prophets, and it's not too much else, man. Like even like all the political scheming didn't really do anything to help the plot at all. Like it didn't pay off. There was no payoff for it.
Yeah,
I think
that
there
part
was
seemed
just one payoff, and I
that
think
part seemed
one of the generals or something that he had convinced to like be on his side played some role in like the climactic battle that happens at the end. But I think that's the only real thing that happens because of his
kind of
political scheming and
I kind
maneuvering.
of think I kind of think like you know how a lot of it seemed to copy Wheel of Time. I think part of that was just like, ooh, political scheming is cool. They do that in Wheel of Time. I'll add that in here too.
Yeah, it's bad. And I was looking at the reviews. I was like, man, people are like, gave this book 4 and 5 stars. I don't get it.
I bet people like we were talking about with the first book with me. I think like if you're not a big fantasy reader, you can see a lot of this stuff as less derivative. Like the first time I read the book, I liked it more than I did the second time because I hadn't read anywhere near as much fantasy as I have now. So I liked it.
It's it's an acquired taste, I guess. Uh-oh, you're frozen.
If Did you
You
lose me there?
unfroze there? Yeah, you're frozen for
Okay.
about 20
Okay.
seconds.
Okay. Yeah, so basically if you haven't read that much fantasy, maybe it'll seem less derivative to you and maybe if you're not a big fantasy reader, you could see it that way, but yeah, I have a hard time seeing it as a very good book. Like I said, even the first time I read these books, which it was also back when I hadn't read many fantasy books. I still really did not like this book, and this book was what made me bail on reading the rest of the series.
Alas. But I feel, since I've heard various people who have bashed this book in particular, I've heard them say, like, books 5 and 6 are decent. So I think I'm willing to at least get that far.
Book 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that as long as book 4 isn't like as insufferable as this one.
Well, I hope not. I just heard that 3 is the worst in the series. I wasn't expecting that to be that bad, but it is.
It's weird too. Like I don't under. It seems hard that it could like often with series, if it's a good series, like Dresden Files and countless other series, it kind of gets better as it goes along. But with this, it's like the second book got better, so it's a false start. Oh, maybe this series will get better with each book as it goes along too, and then it takes like a 3 steps back with the third book.
A complete nosedive on this one.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are some of the elements here that you think made this worse than the first book?
Hmm. Well, like one of the things I think is that even in the first book, Zed and Zed and Kalen had bigger roles than they did in this book,
Mm-hmm.
and the character development and the plot was a little more interesting in the first book. Like I know people hate that whole torture sequence thing, but I thought that was one of the most interesting parts of the book, and
Yeah, that's my
even though
favorite part of the first book,
yeah,
actually.
yeah, and even though it's cheesy, the part where he and Kaylin are with the mud people was interesting seeing their culture too. and Richard learning about his past and all that kind of stuff. This one, the like all of that stuff, the plot and the character development and everything was worse, basically.
Yeah, it's just like he didn't focus on some of his best characters at all, and they just completely took a backseat to Richard's inanity. It's just, I don't know. It's like Richard is probably the reason why most of these books suck.
Yeah,
I don't know. I never
seems like
liked Richard as a character
should have
throughout
played
any
and
of the
paid
books.
attention to should have paid attention to audience reception, and then after book three went, this isn't working. I'm going to go Game of Thrones style and kill the protagonist and go to a different one now.
Yeah, I don't think Richard ever dies throughout the series.
Yeah, probably not.
We're gonna see more of him. You know, him as his anger or whatever. Actually, we didn't see too much of his anger in this book, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As I know there was a section where he had to leave his sword behind because he couldn't use that magical transport with that sword.
Right.
So we got to see him, and that's mostly when he was under like control of that emperor guy.
Mm-hmm.
When the risks with were like calling him skin brother. I don't even. They never explained that shit.
Oh yeah, that's weird. Yeah, they never. I forgot that they never explained that. I kept expecting them to do so.
Yeah, it's like,
Weird.
yeah, Ryle the Riz with helping him now. And there's some type of connection between him and them, but they never explained it other than, oh, he was being manipulated.
Right.
It's like, horrible plot.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb, man. And
Yeah.
those Nico Barisi accents are like super fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Well, it's the accent that Addie has. It's like it's like an Ileana accent, except they just sound stupid.
She still sounds better than they do, though.
Well, she sounds better because she's old.
Yeah.
But it sounds like dumb when young people speak like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I liked book two way more than this one.
Me too.
This was just when I went and looked back, looks like I gave it 2 stars, so I downgraded it to 1.
Okay.
All right, I'm actually this book is so bad that I don't have a whole lot of words to give it.
Yeah, me neither.
It's completely forgettable plot. Complete like I had high hopes. I know you've read it before. I hadn't. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, if this is going to be more like the second book, I'm probably going to be pleasantly surprised. And man, did this series just take a nosedive on this third book? I'm hoping it recovers for fourth, fifth, and sixth, but we'll have to see. My guess
Yeah.
is just like the Blood of the Fold is just, or any books dealing with them as a enemy are just going to be dumb. It looks like this Dreamer guy is still alive and kicking, so I don't know if the next book is dealing with him specifically, but we'll have to see. But
Mm-hmm.
what's your rating on this one, man?
2 stars.
2 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was willing to give it 1, so I put it smack down. I've never read a fantasy book this bad. Can't really think of one.
Bad a fantasy book as Candace Owens' book is for political books.
Yeah, that book just made me mad. I just found this book boring and
Hmm.
it's like not interesting. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
You
It
know, he's
wasn't that
already
interesting.
weak. He's already a
Yeah,
weak dialogue writer. So he has to like pick it up in some other spots,
yeah,
which he didn't really.
yeah.
So I was just disappointed. It's not very good.
No, it's not.
All right, so I guess we can dedicate some time to talking about some of the stuff we've read. I'm probably going to have a much more enjoyable time talking about that rather than what we just talked about.
Yeah, me too.
So, what are some things you've read that we haven't really talked about?
Well, did we talk about A Little Hatred?
No, we have not.
I thought that one was great. I think I read that a couple weeks ago or
It's
so.
so different from the other one.
I liked it. I thought it was a great way to carry on some of the characters and the world of the first Law series. I thought it was
So,
really,
you listened to it, right?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I was very glad that we got to revisit some of the other characters.
Hmm. There's
Um,
Locke's daughter and Giselle's son, right? And there's
yeah,
there's like some surprise incest that happens, which is such a first law thing.
it wasn't a surprise to me because I was like, you know what? If that's Glocta's daughter, then it's not Glocta's daughter. That's like that's Addie and Giselle's daughter, and then this new guy is Giselle's son. So I was like, oh shit, they're freaking
Yeah,
siblings.
and
And I was,
it's funny too that even after she knows that, she still has sex with him again, even after she finds that out.
did she?
Yeah, they have sex a second time after she finds that out.
I don't remember that because I remember
Yeah,
like almost immediately she's disgusted
she
because the
is.
mother finally tells her,
Yeah,
and that was right after because I know he proposes to her and she's like flat out no.
yeah.
Because I remember she said to her mom, I've been sucking like my brother's cock or whatever. So I don't. She has sex with somebody, but it's not him because she has sex with Leo Dan Brock, and then the prince he has sex with the Dogman's daughter. Remember they kind of like swap because Leo Dan Brock and the Dogman's daughter were banging, and then they got in a fight because Leo Dan Brock didn't kill the guy in the circle,
Hmm.
and they got distant. And then Glockta's daughter went after Dan Brock, and Dogman's daughter went after the prince.
Oh, okay. I did. I seem to remember that she found that out. She was horrified, and then she was interacting with him, and she was having thoughts in her head. I really shouldn't do this again, but I really want to, and then ended up doing it anyway. But maybe I'm confusing that with the other characters.
No, because she was completely horrified, and if I remember correctly, she basically broke off communication almost completely. Because remember, there's a part where Orso was talking to his mom, and he was about to tell her that he was going to get engaged, but he received some type of like letter, and he reads the letter, and it's Glock's daughter Sabine saying that she's not going to marry him.
I remember that letter, yeah. Basically just saying I can't marry you, don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah, and she doesn't talk to him again after that.
Okay. Yeah, it must have been with the other guy then.
Yeah, because like almost immediately after that, they bang like the other people.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, man, does that book have a cliffhanger ending on it?
I know, right? I'm really excited to read the next book.
I was
And
kind of
and it's so
sad. I
cool.
was like, I wasn't expecting Giselle to die.
I wasn't either, man. I was like I don't remember how far into the book, but at one point I thought, oh, just it's definitely it's not surprising at all that oh shit, what's his name? First of the Magi? Uh
Baez.
yeah, Baez, Lord Baez was behind all of this shit. Oh, of
Yeah, it
course he's
seems like
killing
he's
everyone.
scheming about it. I don't know
Yeah.
what his motive is, but there's something
Oh, he's
fishy going on.
definitely. And I like how they brought the story forward a little bit in time, and it takes place
Industrial
during the Industrial
Revolution.
Revolution. Yeah, and they show how shitty that fucking was.
So, what do you think of like this Bloody Nine analog that we have?
What do you mean?
Like this guy that kind of goes into rage mode and just fucks people up with his fists.
That guy's cool. Definitely not as cool as the Bloody Nine though, but he is cool. And I like how they added Shivers in there a little bit too, which was
Oh yeah,
also
Shivers is like a grizzled old. He's like kind of like the new Bloody Nine that
yeah,
people know that you're not supposed to fuck with them.
yeah.
I think even because Calder's son, I think said he was like, gonna fuck Shivers up, and everyone's like, "You got to be fucking kidding me! That guy will
Right.
murder you." But yeah, I thought it was good. I really, it's to me, it started off a bit slow. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so too. The pace did seem to me to pick up maybe around a third or halfway into the book, I would say.
Yeah, for me, it picked up when I guess there was that battle with between Leo Dan Brock and um, Calder's forces.
All the battles were awesome as usual. Oh, by the way, I was the other day I was watching an interview with Joe Abercrombie and Patrick Rothfuss,
Uh huh.
and Patrick Rothfuss was telling Joe Abercrombie, "Man, your battle sequences and action sequences are the best. They're just so awesome. You write combat the best." And he said, "Anytime that you see those battle scenes, that's a day where I didn't know what to write, so I just wrote a battle scene."
That's the day I didn't know what to write.
Yeah,
uh, well, whatever his method is, it's a good method
he's good
because
at
the
it.
outcome is pretty damn good. Like, yeah, Leo Dan Brock was getting his ass handed to him, and Dogman's daughter. What's her name? She
I'll
has a
look.
long eye. Like I'm lost on names here. Do you remember her name?
Dogman's daughter in Age of Madness. Oh, Ricky,
Oh,
Rikke,
Rika. Rika.
Ricka. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
right. She's the seer. Right.
Yeah. She got the long eye, and that kind of
Yeah. The
reminds
long
me
eye.
of.
Oh, right. I thought you were saying long eye in terms of pronunciation of her name. That's why that
Oh
confused me.
no.
Yeah.
That's her ability. And this
Right.
ability is hinted at some previous books. Like,
Oh, is it? I didn't remember that.
remember that we're in a Bly when the heroes said that a witch told his future, and the witch had the long eye.
Oh no, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, because he knew that he wasn't supposed to die because some witch with the long eye said that he wasn't going to fall in battle or something like
Oh,
that.
okay. So right. So it's not his time to die yet.
Uh, but yeah, it's I like the new characters. Like they're slowly growing on me.
Hmm.
Sabine is really interesting. She has, it's like a shaved head, and she's like wearing wigs and shit all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Why does she shave her head in the first place again? I forget why she does that.
it's the fashion of the times.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and she goes through hell. She goes through because I think the scene that you're talking about, I know when they meet back up, her and Orso, I think they bang.
Hmm.
Um, and that's when I think he proposes to her at that moment.
Right.
But that was like the last time they saw each other in person.
Okay. It was
Um,
cool too, where Glocta was basically teaching her how to be a manipulative motherfucker.
what what was that? What was he doing?
Well, there were a few. There were. She was
Well,
basically kind of
it's
explaining
funny.
like his parenting method, where he would defend her to other people sometimes, and then other times he would just be totally brutal. Like there was that one scene where she was sparring with a guy, and he just basically
Oh,
let him fuck her up to teach her a harsh lesson. And then
but
when they're
when?
talking to each other, he's teaching her how to manipulate people.
Well, yeah, she was sparring with fucking what's his name? Who's like the best swordsman in the union.
Yeah, I don't remember his
The guy with
name.
the high pitched voice. I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, that's a good benefit of the audiobooks too, especially because he's such a badass, but he has such a high pitched voice. I forget what his fucking name is.
Yeah,
I wonder.
in the heroes he fucked people up. Like he's the one who cut off what's his name? Is it Nail? Is that his name? The
Um.
king in the north that gets killed at the end of the book? Scale.
Oh,
Scale. He's the one
Gale.
that cut off Scale's hand and nearly killed
Ghost.
him.
Gorst.
Yeah, so he's yeah, Gorst, Dan Gorst.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a badass. Like people always debate whether the Bloody Nine, if the Bloody Nine and Gorst fought, the people say who would win. Gorst is just that good with a sword,
Yeah.
but the Bloody Nine is just ruthless as fuck.
Yeah.
I think the Bloody Nine could just take more damage than Gorst can.
Yeah.
But yeah, she got fucked up by Gorst. I think he just wanted to teach her a lesson. Hey, don't get such a big head and think you
Yeah.
can do what think you're the best at everything. So he's like, yeah, you can't beat him. He's because that's the guy that Giselle had to fight in the tournament.
Hmm.
Who he was magically assisted to beat him.
Oh yeah, with the you're talking about when are you talking about when the Bloody Nine is fighting Fenris the Beard and oh wait, no, that's a different
No,
one.
okay, so Giselle, in the first book, Giselle's like in some type of sword tournament,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
you're thinking of the
Bias,
one with part in the third book. Yeah.
yeah, Bias gives him magical assistance to win the fight. And I think somebody on bet against Bias, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you should never bet against the Magi." Good idea. But yeah, I think I'm on the wait list for the second book, but I should get it within a week or two. And the
Sweet.
second book, I think, and I need to get the third book too, because I think the third book is out also.
Yeah, I think it came out maybe last year or so.
Yeah, Wisdom of Crowds.
Yeah. Yeah, the Gazal's son was an interesting character too, because we talked about his relationship with
Oh, Orso,
Alex's
yeah.
brother, but he was interesting too because he's just the, spoiled rat rich kid who doesn't
He's
give up.
basically kind of like Giselle.
Yeah, but he's
He
skilled,
has
but
a
he hides.
conscience.
Yeah, he's skilled, but he hides his skill because he's such a slacker, which is interesting.
Yeah, because he does the negotiation for the mutiny, and he gets like pretty mad that they killed everybody.
Hmm.
But that's kind of what Glocta's orders were. And Glocta is basically the one that's in charge of everything. He's like the shadow hand that pulls the strings. Well, basically, Baez made him that, gave him that position in the
Hmm.
third book of the first trilogy.
Yeah.
And I think in the books they call him Old Man Sticks or something.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they call him Sticks. Like that's what they call him.
Okay.
But yeah, the first book was pretty good. I'm looking forward to that next one.
Me too.
I don't think we talked about The Expanse.
I think we did last time, didn't we? Or no, actually no. We just briefly mentioned it like we did with A Little Hatred. Yeah, I don't think we actually talked about the last book, Leviathan Falls in any way. No.
Yeah, yeah, that gets super crazy. That
Pretty
book.
hardcore sci-fi stuff, right?
Yeah, it's they're trying to combat these aliens, and Duarte. It's weird because Holden becomes Duarte.
Yeah.
Like he does
And
almost the
they're
exact same thing.
they're like alien proto-molecule clones of people like Amos.
Oh yeah, um, they're like immortal clones
Yeah,
that get reconstructed by these dog creatures called
yeah,
repair drones.
right.
And Duarte goes Dutchman. No, I just love all the little terminology that they use in the story, like going
Yeah.
Dutchman. It's, and when a ship just like disappears when going through the gates.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I like that. I like that. Like I was telling you how I started watching the show, and that's one of the things that I like that they did in the show. They have all those little details, like how Holden likes his coffee, and they have the magnetic boots, and the crash couches, and the being drugged before you're going into hyperspace, and all those kind of little details.
yeah, the crash couches in the show are a bit like more streamlined.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I really like yeah, Amos in the first season is a bit an asshole.
Yeah.
He
I can
seems
see that for
just
sure.
yeah. You'll see what I mean. Like to me, he's not likable in the first season. He just seems kind of like a weird autistic asshole.
Yeah, he does seem that way so far to me.
Um, but yeah, that last book, the ending is great. Holden self-sacrifices. We get the return of Miller, which I love Miller. Um,
Hmm.
all the characters are much older. Of course, Holden still has a very strong moral compass.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's crazy because I know at the very end, like the epilogue, it's implied that like Amos is like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Right.
So he becomes like this immortal being, which is pretty weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, the end of that series, I thought they did a really good job ending
Good.
it in the way that they did.
And I definitely have to reread it because there's so much stuff that happens that I definitely missed a whole bunch of stuff, which is another benefit of watching the show too.
Yeah, there's some stuff that it's a good adaptation, but you're gonna notice that there's gonna be some things that they left out.
Right. Yeah, of
Some
course.
characters get left out. Um, because I'm on season 4, which is book 4. That's a good thing about the seasons, though. The weird thing is they only dedicate like half of a season to book 3.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was really happy. I thought I need to actually read the short stories and novellas. I haven't really gone back and checked those out yet, but I
Yeah,
will
most of them
eventually.
are pretty cool.
Yeah, I know I sent you most of them, if not all of them.
Yeah, I think you said there was maybe one that's only available as an ebook, but I read all the other ones you sent me. I read maybe 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, the one that was only an ebook was the one I just sent you, Butcher of
Oh, okay.
Anderson Station.
Oh, okay.
That one was the one that I couldn't find an audiobook for, but one of my libraries got a hold of that finally.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, I thought it ended pretty nicely. I wonder what's in the future of these two authors. Like, what are they going to do next?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder too.
As The
I'm
Expanse is now done,
yeah, I'm excited to see what they could do.
and what from what I've know, the 6th season of The Expanse is going to be the last season. They're not going to do the time skip.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's unfortunate because, well, I think it's unfortunate because I think book 6 is my least favorite in the series, and that's
I
what
don't
they're ending
remember I don't
this
remember
season on.
which one of them is my least favorite. I think it might have been book 6 that was my least favorite too, because I seem to remember book 5 being one of my absolute favorites, and then not liking 6 as much. But I don't remember whether it was that one or the fourth one. I think it was the sixth one though.
Well, the 4th one is the alien planet that's just completely crazy. 5th one is when they destroy Earth, and the 6th one is when they fight the Free Navy.
Oh, I remember actually the no, I had that wrong. I remember it because the one in which they destroy Earth was actually my least favorite.
Really? I thought it was interesting when they all went on their own. Like I thought their little plots were pretty interesting.
I thought it was interesting too. I just didn't. I guess I don't like it as much as the ensemble of them together.
What do you like about book 6? Because that one I thought was super boring.
Really?
Yeah, like book
Maybe
6
I'm
was
confused
like,
about that
I don't
one.
know. Huh? Like the
Uh,
pacing in book 6 was like super slow.
oh no, I didn't. I didn't. I wasn't a. I'm really mixing up the books here, but I do remember that I was a big fan of the fifth one, but I don't remember whether it was the sixth one or the seventh one that I wasn't a big fan of.
Well, the
Do you
7th
have?
one is a time skip.
Oh, right. Okay.
The 5th one is when they defeat the Free Navy.
Okay. Hmm.
But I thought like the Free Navy stuff was like super boring.
That's the seventh one?
No, that's the 6th one.
Okay.
The 6th one is when Naomi gets captured.
Okay.
and she's like aboard
Oh,
the Free Navy ships.
oh yeah, that part was interesting actually.
You like that part?
Yeah, I did like that part.
Okay. Yeah, I think the part that I didn't like much for book six was like when they were like one of the POV characters was like one of the captains of like the resistance against the Free Navy, and I was like, yeah, this character's not really that interesting to me.
Okay.
I don't know. I just thought six was my least favorite. It wasn't bad. It's just not as. I didn't think it was as good as the other books. I think my favorite is probably four because this four is just insane.
Yeah.
Four and the last book is very good.
Yeah, the last book is at least one of the best for sure, I would say.
Yeah, that finale is it's satisfying. I thought the end was pretty satisfying. And
Hmm.
the book before that, I was kind of sad because Bobby died.
Yeah, that is sad.
I was like, man, Bobby was such a kick-ass character, and she sacrificed herself to destroy like one of those Laconian unbeatable battleships.
Right.
So yeah, the last three books are all good, um, but man, that book four is just freaking insane
Hmm.
because it's this thing like um, it's like they just pile on things like, oh, they're going blind. Oh, there's these death slugs. Oh, half the planet just exploded. Oh, there's like some crazy potamological shit going on. There's like so much shit that happens in book four, and oh, there's this fucking psychotic, like corporate security asshole who just wants to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Book four is just freaking nuts. I
Yeah.
like it because it's just there's so much stuff happening. I was like, Jesus Christ, how are they going to get through all of this stuff? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. That's one thing that the books are great for. They're just maintaining constant tension because they have to endlessly face these enormous challenges.
Right, right. So yeah, everybody out there, those Expanse books, amazing. I
Definitely.
started reading them because I got into the first season. This is something that common occurrence with me. Like I'll watch the first season of something, I'll get really interested, and then I'll pursue the book path. I did that with Game of Thrones too. I'm sure people now are probably doing that with Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Um, so what else? What else did you read anything interesting? Anything else?
Yeah, I've been reading this trilogy by Stephen King called the Bill Hodges trilogy, which is um, basically the only consistent aspect of the story I would say is that the I've read the first two books in the series now, and the only consistent part of them between the two so far is that they have the same characters. So it's called the Bill Hodges trilogy because the main character is a retired cop who basically goes on the hunt for a a guy who goes a murderous guy who goes around rampaging in his car and killing people, and then wants to escalate from being a serial killer to being a terrorist and setting off a bomb, and he has to try to stop him along this retired cop has to try to stop him along with the help of a few other people, and this like really hot woman who's 20 years younger than him, so just kind of like out of nowhere gets the hots for him, and they end up looking for this guy together. And it's one of those types of Stephen King books where because he has different levels of the supernatural. depending on which of his books you read. In this one, it's kind of debatable. They leave it kind of debatable as to how supernatural the evil of this main villain is. So it's mostly kind of like a suspense story.
Mhm.
Both of the books, because it's a different villain in the second book, but it's a similar type of thing that they're doing. So they're basically suspense or murder mystery novels, and I think they're pretty good. They're not my favorite Stephen King books, but they're definitely worth reading.
Mm. Yeah, I need to read me some more Stephen King.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, hopefully tomorrow we're gonna talk with Parker about that the
yeah, that
weird
book is
evil
weird.
Jack Power series.
It's
Yeah,
weird, but I like it.
I do too. Yeah, it's interesting.
So, was there anything else you had thought to be interesting besides the book that we're going to possibly talk about tomorrow?
I also I don't remember whether I mentioned this last time we talked about books, but I also finished the second book in my reread of the Strain series of vampire books co-written by Guillermo del Toro. And there's also this time I've been watching the TV series as I've been reading the books, and yeah, they're really it's a really awesome vampire series, and it's kind of like a scientific look at vampires as a virus, but then also mixed in with some mythology because that's how you have to defeat them. But it's not like as typical vampire mythology as Dracula, like crosses don't work, and it's kind of different kinds of vampires. They attack you. They attack you with these kind of stinger things that look it looks like a tentacle. Their tongue is a tentacle that comes out of their mouth, and it has a thing that opens up and latches onto you and sucks your blood out that way. It's
Mm.
uh it's a really interesting vampire story. I like all three of the books, and the series so far, from what I've seen of it, is pretty close to the books too, especially the first season. So yeah, those are really good too. I
Oh,
highly
okay. I'll have to put that on my list.
Yeah, and other than that, I can't think of that much more. Well, I did read that short story, The Butcher of Eastern Station in the Expanse, which was good too, I think. It's a
Yeah, I
good
think that's supposed to be Fred Johnson or something, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a good little story. Have you read that one?
No, I haven't read any of the short stories yet.
Okay. I won't give any spoilers then. Yeah, other than that, I don't think I've read that much that was particularly impressive. I read a really I would should say a kind of interesting one about nanotechnology called Radical Abundance, which was it was interesting because it was educational and I learned more about the similarities and differences between science and engineering in terms of the different methods that they use and the different goals and how you have to do that and how you would design nanotechnology and that kind of stuff. So that was pretty interesting. It gets like really super technical at parts though. So
Uh-huh.
it could have been written a little better, but it was educational, like I said. So that was a pretty good one too.
Okay. I
Yeah,
see you've been reading some economics books.
yeah, a little bit. Which one are you referring to?
Thomas Sowell and Hayek.
Oh yeah, I've been reading. There's a YouTube channel. I think it's called Man, State, and Memetics, and they're kind of like I don't know. They kind of seem like a libertarian economics type of channel or something like that. So I've been well, and anarchists and the people like the Austrian economists, like the libertarians and anarcho-capitalists mention all the time. So I wanted
Hmm.
to learn more about that in more detail to see what they're all on about. And unsurprisingly so far. The economics advice is like really stupid. So but it's like it's more philosophical and more detailed, but still not that great. And I forget which one of them. I think it was maybe one by Hans Hermann Hoppe that I wrote notes on, and we'll probably do a video about eventually. But yeah, I've been reading some of that stuff to see what it's all about. It's worth, but like even the people who like that who get criticized a lot, when you go to the most like try to steel man the most intellectual versions of their arguments, they still have more behind them than you would think, but less behind them than the uber fans of them say.
Mm. I see that you read a Neil Stephenson book.
Yeah, that one, I think I might
You
have
gave it
told
two
you about that.
stars.
Yeah, I think I might have told you about that one before. It's his newest one. I just thought that one was boring. I mean, it's an interesting premise. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic one about climate change, and I just thought the plot was really slow and really dragged on. And I don't mind dialogue-driven books like the Dune books and the Game of Thrones and some parts of the Wheel of Time books, but I mean, just this one just wasn't really that interesting to me.
Oh, okay. As I read a different Neil Stephenson book called Anathema.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a copy of that book. I still haven't read it.
yeah, I thought that was a pretty good book. It's like it gets pretty sci-fi late into it, and then it's just so strange. Like there's like well, it's about like the society that gets separated between like normies and scholars, and the way that the society operates is really interesting. And there's a lot of course, like jargon, like words that they use that I still remember. I think one of my favorites is a super G-Jaw. Yeah, super G-Jaw is just like a laptop, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird terms. So the weird thing is with Anathema, you might have to have like a glossary ready because they use like a lot of their own terms for like things we use and know already. Um,
Okay.
like all they call vehicles a different thing. So it's but I really enjoyed the book. I thought the characters were cool. Um, the final like climax was pretty damn interesting. Um, and there's like a pretty cool twist like in the middle of the books. But there's like a couple of parts that are like super hard sci-fi, especially, and it's almost weird because I almost feel like their order. It's almost like if the Brown Aja had their own society. It's weird.
Hmm.
You'll see what I mean if you ever get to that book.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I am looking forward to reading that, and I do like Neil Stephenson as an author, and I have another one of his books too that I've been meaning to read as well, which is one of his more famous ones, Cryptonomicon. I think I read
mhm,
part of that before a long time ago, but I didn't finish it for some reason, and I read another one of his books since then, but I don't remember which one it was. But I like that one, so it made me want to retry that one. But this
mhm,
one was a new one that was available in the library, and I was ready to read an audiobook before I was ready to read that one. So I read his newest one, and like I said, I wasn't a fan of that one, but
mhm.
I am a fan of him generally.
Okay. Well, the things I read, I finished America Before. Apparently, that's like the third in a trilogy from,
Hmm.
I didn't even know that, but I just kind of
Yeah,
jumped into that one.
I think like to me, it's hard to gauge this because I read the I was like a huge Graham Hancock fan for a while when I first heard about him from Joe Rogan's podcast. and I read the first one, The Fingerprints of the Gods, a long time ago, and a few times, and then I read the sequel to that, Magicians of the Gods, and I thought both of them were really fascinating. I thought this one was interesting too, but it was, to me, it was like more repetitive
Mhm.
uh, than it just of kind of the stuff that he says in his other books. But what did you think about it?
So yeah, I know he covered some of the stuff that I've heard him talk about on Rogan, like the whole Younger Dryas asteroid. So he did talk about that in the book. Some of the more interesting stuff is just like personal anecdotes that he had, like that he suffered like migraines and he was taking like this medication for it that actually he found out
Hmm.
just like totally messed him up and he started having seizures because of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's just talked about some of the health issues that he had. I thought was interesting. Um, and you know, he's just talking about some of the controversy surrounding earlier dating for some of the sites, anthropological
Hmm.
sites that have been discovered. I
Yeah.
think a lot of this book covers mounds in North America, and I think this book is mostly revolves around North America and kind of the ancient civilizations that's spawned there. And he basically talks about how like there's some type of genetic markers that are the same between some civilizations. I think he mentions like New Zealand or something like that, and New Guinea having some same genetic markers as some tribes in South America. But yeah, it was an interesting book. I do get what you mean by the repetitiveness, and that's basically because we've heard him speak about some of the stuff that he
Hmm.
talks about, especially anything about the meteor impact.
Yeah.
But I still thought it was pretty good. Like I remember the earlier parts where he was like talking about some controversy in San Diego and the museum there, which is a museum I've actually been in.
Oh,
One of the
okay.
ones he talks about. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think I gave it 4 stars. I also read Peril by Bob Woodward.
His newest book about Trump.
Well, I guess you could say it's about Trump because it's also about Biden too.
Oh,
Um, it's kind of like about the last of Trump and the earliest parts of Biden's administration, kind of like that transitional period.
does he
A
go
lot of,
into does he go into COVID a little bit too?
yeah, he goes into COVID. He goes into some of the people who worked in the Trump's administration. Like I know there's a big focus on General Milley, who was I think he was Secretary of Defense or some head honcho in the Pentagon who
Right.
was seemed to always oppose Trump um, at every step of the way. I think there was some stuff about Fauci in there, and just kind of like if you've been paying attention to the news, stuff that you've probably seen before.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I thought it was pretty interesting. I liked seeing this General Milley's point of view. I finished Breach of Peace, which
Oh yeah. Is
is
that Daniel Green's second book
that's his
or
first book.
first book? Cool.
Yeah, his first novella. I would send it to you, but this is from Audible, so I don't really have a way to send it. Um,
Okay.
I have the ebook, but of course, Yeah, if I sent it to you, if you've read it, you would have to put it on a device that's not connected to the internet and then quickly read it
Right.
before putting that device back on the internet.
Right.
And it has to be an Amazon device because it's a Kindle format book.
Okay.
Unless you have a way to read Kindle format books.
So would my Samsung tablet work?
If you have the Kindle app, maybe.
Okay.
Well, I could see about getting you some of these ebooks that I have. I have a bunch. So yeah, Breach of Peace. I thought it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad. Um, I think the biggest problem is that it's a short story or a novella. I think the story he's trying to tell is not conducive to the format. I think I'd like to see him tell the story in a longer form, but I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to describe. Like it has good beginnings, but it's not great. Like it's not amazing, but it's also not bad. It's just kind of in the middle.
Okay.
And I think it could have been better if he had written an actual full length book instead of a short story.
Right. I wonder if he's doing that to try to sell more books to get his name out there. Because I heard that the second one is pretty short too.
They're all short. From what I heard, they're all going to be like short stories.
Okay.
Um, and Dracula, that's the thing that I finished most recently. I had not read Dracula before. This is my first time. I also watched uh, the movie with
That's the
Keanu
Chris Robin
Reeves
one.
and Winona Ryder.
Right.
I like Van Helsing better in the movie. Van Helsing in the book is very long-winded.
Yeah, he is.
Um,
And he isn't actually
unfortunately,
in there that much. He's in the movie more, right?
no, he talks a lot in the fucking book.
I mean, like
Um,
in terms of things that he does. Do I just remember that incorrectly? It's been a while since I watched the movie and since I read the book.
well, so book Van Helsing is long-winded.
Yeah.
He's not, well, I'm talking mainly because I have two audiobooks for Dracula. One is 18 hours and one is 14 hours. And the reason why one's longer than the other is because the guy who reads Van Helsing, it's like an extremely long-winded German-ish accent. So he talks like it's almost like he talks like Einstein, I guess. It's kind of hard to pin the accent. If I ever sent it to you, you'd know what I mean about it.
Okay.
But uh,
Like autistic German scientist.
kind of like he sounds like Einstein the way the guy reads them.
Okay.
It's hard for me to describe exactly, but uh, I thought it was pretty good. Like considering that it was written in the late 1800s, I was kind of impressed
Hmm.
about that. That someone came up with this monster idea before the turn of the century. I really enjoyed like the fantasy horror elements,
Hmm.
and I thought it was a really interesting choice to write this as a collection of letters, journal entries, and things of that nature, and recollections. And
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite characters was Renfield.
don't remember who that is.
Renfield is the crazy guy
Oh, okay.
who eats flies and pretends that he's sane. He's like fucking really smart, but he's crazy. He's like super intelligent, but he is nuts.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I thought the story was pretty good. There's like some parts that they could have chopped out of there that were really inconsequential. I know there's like this old sailor guy that they talked to a few times. He's like almost incomprehensible. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was. I thought overall it's good. Like, of course, it kind of has like this weird, like melodramatic style. Because if you know this was written today, like basically it would be half the length that it
Yeah.
is. But I thought it was pretty decent.
Um, yeah, writing style in general back then was a lot more verbose.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think if I was going to listen to it again, I'm definitely not going to listen to that version that I listened to. That was 18 hours long. I'd probably go with one of the short because this version actually had different voices for each character.
Okay.
So like every character had like a different person, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Right.
It's just that Van Helsing, man. He's really hard to understand in this version.
Yeah. I
Um,
read it as a physical book before, so I didn't have to deal with any of that.
yeah, I have the physical book. And I was like, man, this is like only a 400-page book, and this audiobook is like 18 hours. What's going on?
Right.
Oh no, the movie was pretty weird and interesting, different than the book, especially like the ending, because in the end, like Mina's like basically reincarnated Dracula's wife. That's like not a part of the books at all.
Right.
um,
She's kind of
and
just like the damsel in distress role in the book.
yeah, and yeah, that's for sure. And I thought the pacing in the movie was pretty damn good compared to the book. And I thought like their artistic choices for certain things were pretty interesting. I forgot how weird and varied like Dracula's powers were. Because he has so many
Yeah.
freaking powers in the book. Like he can control the
Yeah, in the
weather, he can turn into wolves, he can turn into bats, into a
Mhm.
mist. Um, and then didn't really fully understand like what the dirt was for, as he has to have like dirt with him in order to like go to sleep in the dirt, like
Yeah,
boxes of dirt everywhere.
yeah.
And I thought it was interesting though, like how they treated, like at least how Van Helsing approached vampirism, because it was weird. It's like he approached it as both a scientist and a priest.
Yeah. hmm Well,
And
like, especially in Dracula, religion plays a huge role in how you can defeat him, right? Because he is afraid of the crucifixes and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, and one of the things I really liked about the movie is it Anthony Hopkins? Is that who plays Van Helsing?
Yeah.
He does such a good job as playing this weird, aloof scientist. There's this one part in the movie that I just cracked up. He goes back to some type of dinner with Jonathan Harker, and Jonathan Harker, asks, um, Van Helsing about Lucy, and he's like, "Oh, I hope she didn't suffer." And Van Helsing's just like straight up, "Well, yeah, she suffered quite a bit." And then we put a stake through her chest and chopped her head off. And
Yeah,
then Jonathan Harker was like super pissed.
yeah. Well, he fucking torturously murdered his fiance.
Well, no, Lucy was not Jonathan Harker's fiance.
Oh, right, Lucy. Wait, who was Lucy again?
Lucy was like the chick that was like everybody was in love with her. Like Dr. Seward was trying to hook up with her, Quincy was trying to hook up with her, and
Oh,
eventually,
okay.
yeah, she was Homewood's fiance, I believe.
Oh, okay. Is she the one where they assume that she's sick when she's getting vampirism because she's been bitten?
Yeah, she's the first one like in their circle that gets bitten because I know Mina gets bitten later on.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah, I confused Lucy with Mina.
Yeah, because Lucy dies, Mina survives at the end.
Hmm. Yeah, but we mentioned before when we were talking about this that new Dracula show on Netflix.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'll be interested to see what you think about that if you watch it. It's only 3 episodes, and uh, the the first episode sticks fairly close to the book, but after that, it goes way off in very different directions.
Okay. Well, I know I downloaded it on my tablet to watch, so I eventually will check that out.
Cool. You still there? Did I freeze? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. You can't hear me?
Yeah, I think either I lost you or you lost me for a sec there.
Oh, I was just saying, I was just more interested to see a more modern adaptation of the material,
Hmm.
more modern take. Because I know what that movie came out in the '90s.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you had
That
Keanu
movie is
Reeves, Winona Ryder, Gary Oldman. You like a bunch of acting powerhouses. Cary Elwes. Like, whatever happened to Cary Elwes? Like he
good
kind
question.
of disappeared.
He's in a lot of stuff in the 90s too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like he disappeared. I think the most recent thing I ever seen him in was he was like the mayor in Stranger Things.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, he kind of like went off the map for a while.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so Dracula, and the current thing I'm reading now is that Area 51 book by Annie Jacobson,
Cool. That's a
and
good one. That's the
that's
first one of hers that I read.
yeah, that's like super interesting. I'm
Yeah.
really like into it. It's like so much crazy spy stuff going on.
You should have read that back in your like conspiracy theory alien mothership believing days, eh?
I didn't even know about it. Like all of
Yeah,
the Area 51 stuff that I knew about was like I knew about Bob Lazar, and I
of
know she
course.
goes into Bob Lazar into the beginning of the book, and she like lends him some credibility. Like I completely forgot that Bob Lazar was an actual like nuclear scientist, and he knew
Hmm.
Edward Teller. So, and he worked at Los Alamos, which is a nuclear science like government facility.
Hmm.
So I was
I
like,
just
oh,
remember, I just remember the most. I was thinking that the most interesting aspect of that book to me was that there were all these theories about aliens coming out of Area 51 because there were actually secret stealth planes that they were designing that they wanted to hide from the Russians because it was during the Cold War and they didn't want them to steal their technology or figure out that they were spying on them with secret spy planes.
Yeah, so lots of those spy planes crashed and got shot down. Like,
Hmm.
man, it's like a really risky endeavor. I think they
Yeah.
said like, 'cause they were gonna fly a U-2 mission over Cuba, and they're like, yeah, there's a 1 in 6 chance that it'll get shot down.
Hmm.
So it's like super dangerous,
I think it was
super
on
dangerous job.
I think it was on a documentary that I watched that basically it had kind of a similar message as this book where they were explaining that one of the pilots in one of the stealth jets that was being sent over to Russia got kidnapped by
Mhm.
they got caught he got caught by the Russians and got kidnapped and tortured until the US government negotiated for his exchange for someone else. I think I don't remember exactly how that got resolved. I just remember that they eventually let him go.
Yeah, there was a guy that they talked about that he got shot down
Hmm.
and recovered by Russians, but they don't. Yeah, they didn't mention anything about torture though.
Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting so far. I'm more than halfway through it, but I'm not sure what I'm going to read next after this. There's just too much to choose.
For sure.
Maybe I'll start the Red Rising, or I don't know. I have to see what's on my phone currently.
Red Rising is a pretty awesome fantasy
Uh,
sci-fi series.
yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it with the book reading. The only thing I am listening to right now is Area 51. Of course, I'm really going slowly through all the time. I'm, I'm probably far enough ahead to do a first third of Butcher's Heart, but
Maybe
we
we could
can.
do that. Maybe we could do that next week with Tristram, and we can do that movie chat on that on the Snyder Cut of Justice League on my channel, and then the week after next week, we could do the next Arcanum Unbounded story, Silence for Shadows. I always forget. Is it Silence? Yeah, it's Silence for Shadows in
The
the
Forest
forest,
of Hell.
in the forest of hell. The week after next week, maybe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was thinking next
I could
week we'll
start
probably
reading that.
finish up Castlevania.
You want to do that first?
Yeah, and then we'll do Winter's Heart.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start reading that pretty soon then. So what is the first third of it that you think we'll cover? Like 15
Probably
chapters or something?
up to chapter 10.
Chapter 10? Okay.
Yeah, up to chapter 10.
Okay.
Oh yeah, first third of Winter's Heart. Um, but yeah, man. So I guess we could start wrapping it up. Um, did you have any plugs?
Yeah, check out Mindgasms where Dusty talks with me on there all the time too. Check out our chat that we alluded to with Tristram last week about the Emperor's Soul, the one of the short stories in Brandon Sanderson's Arcanum Unbounded short story collection in his fantasy Cosmere. And we're going to talk about Silence for Shadows in the Forest of Hell the next time. And tomorrow, check out, we're going to be talking with Parker about Stephen King's second Dark Tower book called The Drawing of the Tree. And like I said, next weekend, hopefully, we'll also talk about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League and check out all the other awesome stuff I've done. I recently talked with Jared Bauer from Wisecrack about the new Matrix movie. So that was pretty exciting too, and we kind of debated about that because I liked it more than he did. So check out that too, and yeah, just check out Mindgasms, and yeah, check out. You wanted to talk about season 4 of Castlevania next week?
Yeah, the last Castlevania chat.
Sweet. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you all for staying with us and watching past that torturous session regarding Blood of the Fold. Not something I would really recommend, and unless you really, really wanted to. I'm kind of a masochist when it comes to these bad books anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of like that, then maybe this wouldn't be such a bad experience for you.
Yeah.
I'll also say that Blood of the Fold sounds like a euphemism for menstruation.
That's a good point.
That's basically what I think about this book.
It's so true. Blood of the Fold.
um, but anyway, yeah, do or don't check it out. If you do, keep in mind I gave it 1 fucking star. I've warned you. But yeah, check us out next week. Castlevania, we're going to wrap that one up finally, because I know we went on hiatus because of the Wheel of Time, and we've just been covering that weekly. But now that we're free to have free reign, yeah, Castlevania next week, Saturday. And thank you guys for joining. Of course, like and subscribe, and check out Andrew's channel as well. And you all have a great night.
Yep. Adios till next time, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.